Hey guys, so warmly welcome for this important job safety analysis training. I always mention one of the sentence, every process, especially in construction and oil and gas or any high hazardous industries, is just like an elephant. And you truly need to learn how to chop up this elephant to manage properly. So that means every process, it's not like just a round kind of assessment. You need to chop up one process in different further activities and sub processes, and then you will go for hazard recognition, and then you will identify what can go wrong. So accordingly, you will be putting your controls. So for easy understanding, first of all, let's try to understand what is the definition of job hazard analysis. Basically, it's a technique. It's a technique that focuses on job task, and not only one task. Like you have one project, and this project have maybe more than 500 tasks. So each task have very much importance, to tackle it more safely and make sure nothing will go wrong while you are performing this particular task. So anyhow, is a way to identify hazards before they occur. So proactively, you have to be proactive for this particular activity to identify all hazards. It focuses on the relationship between the worker, the task, and the tools, and the worker environment. And also, ideally, after you identify uncontrolled hazards, you will take some steps to eliminate or reduce. So you have only two mega steps. Either you will try to eliminate that particular hazard. If it's not possible, then or unavoidable, then of course you will try to reduce by implementing certain controls. And sometime I noted while doing risk assessments, especially in different companies, mostly the existing controls are insufficient. That is why the repetition of incidents or accidents on the same process are happening, because people don't review sometimes the risk assessment. They believe just one time activity is there. Otherwise it should be reviewed whenever there is a change. Maybe you brought new machines, maybe you brought new equipments, or you added few processes, or you have more land for your project. So of course you need to review your assessment. It's not like today you have two cranes and you believe it's the same condition, while next day you have 10 different cranes. So it's not a similar situation now. So according to the addition or kind of management of different kind of changes, you have to review your job safety analysis, your risk assessment, your joint site inspections will be redo even. So all of the elements, it's not like just one time make the documents and keep them in the file. So I have elaborated in 4 easy steps just for your better understanding, even though you guys are experienced, but still I'll try to elaborate in a very simple way, because creating complications, everyone can do it, right? But making things easy, that should be our key area to focus. So step 1 is just you need to select the job for analysis in the order of priority. This is your number 1 step. And step 2, you need to break the job down into a series of steps. Can be 5 steps or 10 steps, or let's take an example of excavation. So how many other sub processes would be involved in excavation process? Same way, if you like number 3, identify potential hazards through a series of questions. What can go wrong? That's we'll discuss in the next slide. Step 4 is determine preventive measures to remedy identified hazards. Why we identify proactively all the hazards? The reason is we must control them proactively also. So to avoid from any kind of injuries or incidents. So this is the whole purpose. So I hope these 4 steps would make your understanding quite clear. That means only proactively you need to identify hazards associated to one process or any sub process or even any activity or any task relevant to your project. But now, how do I identify workplace hazards? Basically, again, the same way we discussed already, a job hazard analysis is an exercise in detective work. Your goal is to discover the following: what can go wrong? This is the only biggest question I would say. Before we start any activity, we should ask ourselves, what can go wrong? And it doesn't require a scientific approach or a kind of huge educational or experience background. It's just a common sense. Before we start any activity, we just need to ask ourselves, what can go wrong? And of course, we will get plenty of answers in our mind. What are the consequences? What can go wrong? And what could be the consequences? The second question should be here in our mind. How could it arise? And what are other contributing factors? That mean the variables for this process. Like if wind speed will go up, what would happen to our scaffolding process or our rigging and lifting process? I hope you got the point. If sudden sandstorm is there, if sudden heavy rains are there, how our processes can affect, if simultaneous random lifting is going on, how it can affect to our each process, if excavation is going on and on the other side you have heavy equipment to be parked nearby, what can go wrong? So all the variables or contributing factors we have to consider proactively. Now, how
Yes.
likely it that the hazard will occur? Likelihood, even though in the risk assessment almost we been identified for all the activities and processes, but still for this particular task specific or process specific, you still need to rethink what is the likelihood that the hazard will occur. So these are some of the questions to identify workplace hazards more accurately, inshallah. The purpose is the workplace injuries. The majority of the disabling workplace injuries happen to workers who are in their first year with a new employer. Because the freshers, they are not experienced like you. They don't have understanding and the technical, deep understanding of different kind of activities going on in the project. The freshers or the people you ignored and didn't give them proper orientation or kind of induction or any initial training before they start their job, of course they'll be in trouble. Now the little or no safety training would be terrible. Unsafe work procedures, inadequate personal protective equipment, and no safety oversight. That's critical to understand. Why do we all have to do this? Guys, here the Zan is going on, so I'll take maybe 2 minutes break. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay, welcome back, guys. Thank you very much for your wait because it's kind of religious obligation. So that's why. Now, why do we all have to do this? Why we do all this job safety analysis? Because each job and each project has unique hazards. Again, I would mention it's not like one-time hazard recognition of any process, because every day is a new day. Like today, the wind speed is entirely different. Today might be the humidity, and tomorrow the humidity would be entirely different. How come you can use the same hazard analysis every day or for the same job every time? So I would say even the location, the moment you change the location, again, hazards complications will be entirely different, which we truly need to understand. So one-time training is insufficient. That is the reason one-time training is insufficient. And that is why we do, toolbox meetings again and again for better awareness and refresh trainings of our employees. So, and also we do different drills, for clearing their important concepts. Now, human beings are unreliable operators, especially in high hazardous industries or kind of processes. The latest technology is being adopting to eliminate human capital from all these high hazardous processes, because if you bring them as a frontline defender for these process, of course, would be a dangerous game, So what the global corporate world is trying, wherever they have high hazardous activities or processes, they are trying to eliminate human and bringing technology like robotic technology or kind of artificial intelligence or having some other tactics like sensors and devices and different kind of mechanism to manage this particular process, or in building everything in the machining process actually, because they don't want to kill any human, even though there are several unemployment issues and plenty of other things, but still we have to save lives, right? So why they are doing all these things? Because human beings are truly unreliable operators, and training is the least reliable way of preventing injuries unless it is thorough. That is why in high hazardous industries, why we tell, oh, we need a person having 5 years experience or 10 years experience or 20 years experience, because experience is unbeatable. That's what we believe in, because they understand the whole technicality of that particular activity or process. So because we don't want to see any injuries or any kind of accident or incidents, So what steps we need to follow for effective JSA? First of all, no harm to assemble a group of people knowledgeable in tasks involved in a lab or research project or any excavation project or your welding project, whatever type of project is there. Break down jobs involved in a lab or the project into steps and identify potential hazards in each step. Identify control for each hazard, train all involved, personnel and students, and document the hazard. Safe procedures and training sessions in writing. So even though one SOP will clear everything, like you have proper GSA, and what you mentioned, the activity, the hazard, and what kind of hazards could be there, what controls you have to implement, even who is responsible to ensure these controls. Even though in that particular format you implemented the whole SOP, but still continual training for the safe procedures and through toolbox meeting, through some kind of on-site trainings still is important. Now, breaking down the job, not too many steps, not too few steps even. Get out of your normal mode of thinking and imagine things can go wrong. So sometimes, even though we don't work on assumptions, but still you have to use what if strategy or kind of assumptions that, oh, something can go wrong. So you think sometime 15 different directions to a value to one process, what can go wrong. That's why a team can help. Like if you are let me give an example. If you are having an electrical project, so more better GSA can be prepared in collaboration and cooperation of electrical engineers. If you are doing risk assessment of an excavation process, the civil engineers or the mud engineers or geological engineers, they can be a great help. If you have to get them involved. If it's a welding process, so get involved with the welding, the experienced operators, so they can give you a better understanding what can go wrong, and they understand mostly the variables, because staying all the time like 8 hours or 12 hours continuously, they are there to work. That's why of the things that can go wrong, prioritize the ones that are most likely or most dangerous. In the risk assessment, mostly we have this particular analysis already in hand. Let's take few examples of common hazards, like chemical, could be toxic, flammable, corrosive, or explosive. Or take an example of H2S or carbon monoxide or different kind of LEL because of methane, because of other toxic gases. Unexpected release of stored chemical energy like spring-loaded compressed gases, drop weights. That's why we have isolation, lockout, tagout, and disconnection and blinding and different kind of methods to control these energies or to eliminate them before we start our repairing or maintenance project. Now, same way we have electrical hazards like shock, electrocution, fire, electrostatic discharge. Mechanical like blades, crushing, rotating machines, or even abrasions, radiations could be lasers or radioactive materials. Even welding process also gives some radiation. So biohazard have toxins, infections, agents, and carcinogens, or even ergonomic like lifting heavy weights, repetitive motions, eye strain. So these are some of the common hazards. There are plenty of other hazards. We can prepare a list of a lengthy hazards, but these are some of the common hazards which are truly important to consider while we are doing GSA. Now, once we identified hazards proactively, now it's a time to put some effective controls. The word effective is important here. Putting some simple controls and still injuries are happening on that particular process, that means your existing controls are insufficient. or ineffective. So what is the best strategies to make sure you are putting controls which are at least effective, remove the danger altogether if not critical to cross or project, guard the danger if any rotating parts are there. So better to have guarding, not only guards, even I would say, incorporate some sensors or devices. So while the equipment or machine is running, nobody can touch. If someone touch, of course, the machine should stop automatically. Provide personal protective equipments, provide instructions, training, and warning. So engineering controls, administrative, and PPs. And before that, you can try elimination and isolation for sure. Documentation is critical for JSA. You need to document all the hazards and safe operating procedures on standard form. Keep this list on file, provide this list to whoever is involved at your project, and keep a sign up sheet as well with the name, date, and signatures. Why I'm running fast for these slides? Because I want to discuss technical, practical things, because theory you can study.
Yeah, I understand, sir.
Yeah, for OSHA, website, or you can get that material. But I have some practical
Yes.
examples which I'm going to open now in Excel sheet. Okay.
Mm.
So let's discuss practically how it should be done. And I will share this complete GSA for construction industry especially. And it will be helping you, like you can use it, this editable format, and certain processes are there. So whenever I get
This is the new procedure for job.
yeah.
This the format now is, I think, this
No,
the
format.
format.
Nobody make you bound for formats, but at least your conceptual understanding must be clear. How you are going to do it. Like here, first of all, you can mention your company name, the topic of the document, and of course the project reference, and make sure the activity name, like PCC work is going on, and you need to mention the date as well. Now, number one column, you can make like serial number, then the activity for this PCC work. What are the activities? That means the list of serial numbers and list of activities, list of hazards, like what can go wrong for this particular activity or process. And risk involved, once you have hazards, you need to find out the risk involved, for this particular hazard. And of course, the control measures based on your SOPs, based on your experience and some other international theories, and who is responsible with remarks and all. Now, improper access, slip, trip, and hazard. This is relevant to PCC work. So they mentioned one hazard. Let's take an example. So risk involved is injury to person. Now, control measures, they are talking about provide proper access during work, keep access free from obstacles, provide and ensure use of PPEs like safety, helmet, shoes, and safety jacket. And responsibility is the site engineer or site supervisor. Now, this is one way to do this. You can make it more elaborative, more technically sound, You can put, like they mentioned, injury to person. So you can involve likelihood also. Same document, you can improve the way you want. Even you can add color combination, like, oh, injury to person, the likelihood is 5. That means quite red zone area. So you can add red color also, like on the same document, how many risks are in red zone or yellow or even in green, like acceptable level, all together, same like risk assessment, even you can complete. But don't make this document complicated, make it simplified, because this is relevant to each task, this is relevant to each sub process or kind of process even. Now the second activity or second kind of hazard activity is going on PCC work. So second hazard is charging of sand, grit, cement, and water and mixer machine inhalation of dust. So they identify the second hazard. Risk involved, lung diseases, of course, asthma and plenty of other things. So what we have to do is toolbox meeting should be conducted before starting the work. Provide and ensure use of dust mask. Now, this control measures, you can add some more. Oh, we should have some air purification respirator mask. You can not only dust mask, because dust mask still might be some dust can go into the lungs. So it is up to you. The more effective controls you are going to try to implement, the more cost will be involved. And we as a safety professional, sometime if we will tell expensive controls or expensive kind of suggestions to gonna give to the management, they will dislike us more frequently. Even at some stage, they will hate us, because there is a solution for everything. We can have a dust collection system, dust sucking system, and make sure not a single dust particle is coming and going into our lungs. I hope you got the point. So we have to create a win-win situation, not to dissatisfy our top management, not to violate our legal or international standards, and to try to create a win-win situation. And the purpose is to keep our employees safe. Yes, if you're using dust mask, make a administrative control, change it frequently, or after each use, don't use the same dust mask again. I mean, it's kind of a disposable. Use one time and throw it. So what you are doing, you are still trying to make that control effective. I hope you got the point.
Yes, sir.
We are not going to suggest expensive controls always. Yes, some hazards
Yeah.
require expensive controls, and nobody can deny. That is why several global brands, they have open budget for safety, but they make us accountable also, that we don't want to see any a deadly accident, at our side or within our companies. Now, the third hazard is shifting and charging of concrete with wheelbarrow and into pit improper access, poor illumination work. During work, wheelbarrow may hit person, fall of material. What is the risk involved? Injury to persons, or injury to our employees. Even at some level, we can say, the asset can also be damaged, but we have to think about human and even environment and some others. Now, what are the controls that provide proper access during work, keep access free from obstacles, provide proper illumination during the work, wheelbarrow should be instructed before taking to use, provide close supervision during work, maintain safe distance of wheelbarrow from pit. Now, these controls you will not impose by yourself. It should be a collaborative agreement between all parties, all interested parties. Like the activity owner. If it's a welding process, the welder should be get involved. If it is like electrical process, the electrical engineer should get involved. What I mean is, don't do it by yourself 100%, because it's a teamwork. If you are completing or doing it individually, or you are just copy pasting, you got some JSA, like I will give you this format, but you have to make it more effective as per the nature of your project and your activities, your processes, right? What I mean
Yes.
is, don't use them blindly with same copy paste. Saudi Aramco, sometimes they are fed up. The same ERP, same HIP, every contractor is submitting, you know, no change at all. And what they believe is just a formality. Safety is not a formality, guys. Now, improper usage of another hazard they evaluated for PCC work, improper usage of hand tools like slip, trip, and fall, injury to person and property damage could happen. Now, the number one control, what they are suggesting, only trained workmen allowed to work to do this work, provide close supervision during work, ensure proper hand tools during work. Okay. So only trained workmen allowed to do work, provide close supervision during work, and ensure proper hand tools during work. Hand tools should be inspected. Now, whenever you get the word inspection, that means there should be some inspection checklist also. Like if you have a forklift or crane or any other element involved for this particular process, Of course, you need more effective inspection of same way we have HSE inspection list as well, kind of a checklist. Same way, I suggest mostly the companies have a checklist for everything. Have a checklist for ladder, have a checklist for your lifting gears, your crane, like your all heavy equipments. No harm to have a checklist for your generators, your compressors, your compressed gas cylinders, or you can have a one master checklist and make portionalize, each segment and make one master document, but it shouldn't be just tick, tick, tick. Make sure you are doing it effectively. Inspection does not mean only tick. Let me give you an example. In one of the company, I asked the guy, can you show me your last 3 months forklift inspection record? So let me see uh, what things, you highlighted for maintenance or what issues you highlighted. And unfortunately, the random, not all, the random selected checklist I verified and 100% ticks were there. Then I asked, for the last 3 months, how come a forklift have 0% any, zero issues actually? So can you show me your forklift? The safety belt was not buckling. The backup warning, signals were not working at all. The seat adjustment is hard to adjust actually. The tires quality was terribly poor, I would say. Even the forks, they were wobbling up, But on the checklist, 100%, everything is okay. Then I asked the operator, how come you can tick every box, Do you know what you're ticking? No, I don't know English. Then why you are ticking? That's what the safety supervisor told me to do it and send me copy every day. I hope you got the point.
Yes, yeah. So,
It's like only tick tick.
the thing is for the Aramco now, they have three language:
Excellent.
English, Arabic, and Hindi.
Absolutely right. And that's in need of the time, Even,
Yes.
whenever we sign a consulting project, we prefer pictorial based SOPs instead of word based. The lengthy stories,
Mm,
nobody have time to read, trust me, and it's hard to understand also. But if you guide people with pictorial, this is step number one, like picture number one, and you
yeah.
give a simple description. And if any document involved, you in line with the picture, you tell, this document should
Yeah.
also be completed. So
Like
it's
blinker,
easier to understand.
item number one.
Yeah, like item number one or step number one or step number two, three. So even it would be easier to train others, and also you can
Actually, that's
display them. Otherwise, we try to prepare mostly SOPs in shape of process flow charts even.
Mm.
Instead of having again lengthy stories. I like Saudi Aramco, or they have invested a lot of money, but their GIs, their lengthy standards, trust me, whenever I ask someone, have you studied all the GIs? No, because there are so many and they
Yes.
are too lengthy. Nobody have time to read all this. And even
Yes.
some of the companies I noted, they don't have GIs at all, just the relevant formats and some, or the GI is only lying with the safety manager. Oh, no one else even familiar what GIs we are talking about.
Mm.
So these lengthy stories, and that's another reason people don't like safety system, because they don't feel comfortable with the way we are teaching them through our SOPs, through our lengthy procedures, I mentioned earlier, making things complicated, anyone can do it. But making things easier, even the complicated one, you are trying to make them easier. Trust me, people would love to listen you and they will try to follow you even, because you make their life easier. They already have, like a welder. Let's take an example. A welder is already having a target every day. Oh, this much welding you have to do within 8 hours or 12 hours. One shift target is there from project manager side or from production side, from operation side. What I mean is that much pressure is sufficient for him, Now, if you are also getting involved and telling him, okay, these 10 documents you have to fill, these 35 rules you have to follow. But for him, one single stress is enough to complete the project target. That is another reason of, unfair distribution of task or workload. Also another reason of accidents, excessive workload or unfair distribution. One gentleman is so much busy, the other one is enjoying, all 8 hours even, doing nothing. Might be friend of general manager, might be friend of safety manager, whatever the reason is behind. Or having a strong reference, maybe hired through Saudi Aramco professionals. People quote their reference. Oh, don't you know me? I was hired through Saudi Aramco company man. So will he be listening you? Of course not. So this kind of unfair, unethical approaches also creating, terrible loads, especially at the shoulder of honest employees. I'm talking practical things, what I evaluated on site while visiting thousand companies, in more than 12 countries. And this is not only in Saudi Arabia, it's happening globally. If you're honest with your job, you have more load and company have more tasks to do because you are honest with your job. So they will give you plenty of new projects. But of course, that is good for you because your potential, your capability, your professional strengths are going to be enhanced and you will get the fruit not from the same job, maybe from the next job. Okay, one more hazard we can take here for PCC work is fall from height. And remember, fall is the #1 cause of fatalities globally. That means injury to person or even might be the fatal accident or even accidental death could also happen. So provide proper personal protective equipment and ensure use of PPEs like the safety helmet, safety shoes and safety jacket. Now, this control is not sufficient. But sometimes they believe only PPEs will work and nothing else we need to do. While falls from height, make sure you have complete fall arrest system. Full body harness is there, lifelines are there, barricade is proper. If it's a scaffolding, fall from where? From scaffolding, from ladder, from man basket. So according to that kind of activity, you need to decide your effective controls instead of only talking, oh, personal protective equipments are enough. I hope you got the point. So
Yes.
sometimes you need to challenge, like if you have JSA for your company already for every activity, go back and challenge them. This is how we work more effectively. Instead of accepting blindly every time whatever is already developed is sufficient. Because normally I told you, people have tendency not to read because they don't have reading hobby, in other words, or they believe we are experienced people, so don't no need to study whatever safety department have developed, in shape of SOPs and shape of flow charts or kind of JSA documents. They'll be following the way they have experienced things. But what I mean is, now you can reevaluate and point out and tell, look, these controls are not sufficient. How come we can just fall from height, we can just provide PPs and the story is finished? Same way, like pouring of concrete, and concrete may come in contact with the eye and skin. That means eye injury, skin irritation. So what we have to do is make sure you have, first of all, toolbox meetings should be conducted for use of PPEs and first aid. Provide close supervision during work. Provide and ensure the people likely safety goggles, rubber and hand gloves, and gum shoes. But let the people challenge also these controls. Like if you prepared all these things, let them rethink. Let the relevant person to, or the civil supervisor or civil engineer, they should come in front and say, look, these controls are insufficient, because that is their process. They are the activity owner. And this is how the thing should move on with GSA. Same way, material shifting. For material shifting, again, the same process, serial numbers we're going to take. An activity like shifting of materials from stockyard to construction site by vehicle. What hazards can be there? All hazards you need to list up, and what risks are involved, and of course the controls. If we miss a hazard not enlisted, it's a disaster. If we miss any effective control, or we have weak controls, still more chances or more likelihood will go up for the accidents or incidents. So I will share, guys, this complete file. Okay, so it will give you a practical idea how you can prepare GSA, like concrete, piling, welding processes there, gasketing, or different kind of processes are going on. Okay, I have your WhatsApp number, so I'll share this one, inshallah. Okay, any question for GSA training until now?